This week in the Rural Challenge, we're thinking about holding a grudge and about not thinking about being reconciled to something. And I think this is particularly difficult in rural communities because sometimes people in rural communities or whole communities will hold a grudge against another community or something which is going on between them. And sometimes people don't know where these grudges between villages started. There are classic cases, people where perhaps the 17th century civil war was fought, they were on different sides and maybe they fought each other in that time. Maybe there's some particular incident that happened. There's the classic story of one village not telling the other village that the Vikings were about to attack them, that one village felt they should have sent a warning. And there's kind of those really ancient things, and then there can be more modern things. Sometimes I think it's just because the young men of one village wanted to have an excuse to fight the other men in the other village. It was a tribal thing going on, and they were actually physically close enough that they were the two groups who would fight and have trouble between them. But whatever it is, it's really not helpful. Particularly in rural ministry in England at the moment, we need our villages to be able to work together and not hold a grudge one village to another village, whether that is a historical grudge or a more modern grudge. That needs to be wiped out of the way. One of the most recent things that's happened, which has made a significant difference about cooperation between villages, was COVID. In my case, in the place where I was working, we had one Zoom service on a Sunday morning, and actually people from all the villages joined in that service, in that Zoom service, and it's really interesting because there were a lot of people available because they couldn't be anywhere else. So people joined in that Zoom service and they felt that they knew the people that they were seeing on the screen, that they were maybe having a chat to before or after the actual service. But people felt that they knew each other, and it really fostered a spirit of cooperation between the two villages, and they felt that they could get on and work together better. But it's really important that villages and multi-parish benefices need to be friends with each other. They need to cut any rivalry out because they need to support each other on the journey of faith where they are in their communities. They need to be supporting and acting together, not holding a grudge. Thought for the week this week is based on Mark chapter 8, and we're looking at verses 27 to 38. And this week I have been really thinking about the sort of middle bit where it's very compact, where we see this really tumultuous nature of Peter and Jesus's relationship. So at the beginning, in verse 29, Peter replies to Jesus' question about who do people say that I am by saying that he knows that Jesus is the Messiah. He knows that Jesus is the Messiah, and that's great and that's fantastic. And then in verse 33, 77 words later, in the New Revised Standard Version, Jesus is calling Peter Satan, because Jesus has been explaining that he needed to die and be resurrected. Peter took him to one side and said, no, this can't happen. And Jesus rebuked Peter, saying, get behind me, Satan. So, that's really too much for 77 words between being the best and most person who understands the most about Jesus to being the person who's holding him back. And Jesus even feels that he will call him Satan for that. And that is hard. Of course, things are going to get harder as well for Peter and Jesus. Peter cuts somebody's ear off during the arrest when Jesus is being arrested. Jesus has to stop in the middle of being arrested in order to heal someone's ear. It's not a normal arrest sequence, is it? Oh, just hang on, I just need to heal the ear of this person who's just had his ear cut off by my far too keen friend. And then as we go through that night, then Peter denies knowing Jesus. Peter denies being Jesus' friend. So things are not going well for them. This week, while I've been thinking about all the kind of things in this situation where it's so close together. I've been thinking about the line from the Taylor Swift song. The song is "We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together," and it goes, I say I hate you, we break up, you call, I love you. And it's just that kind of tumultuousness of the relationship that I've been thinking about. So in the end, Taylor is very strong about the "we are never ever getting back together." But Peter and Jesus do make up, they do get back together, and they have that experience through the resurrection, meetings with Jesus, that Peter and Jesus come back together, and Jesus actually gives Peter the really difficult job of leading the church. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Peter had on his CV that would make him a really good church leader. You know, fisherman who occasionally believes he can walk on water but then discovers that he can't. Those sorts of things. But there is something which is really, really important about Peter which Judas didn't understand. So you can always come back to Jesus. You can always rebuild your relationship with Jesus. And do you know, when I've been thinking about it this week, perhaps that is the most important thing for a church leader to understand, for anybody to understand, that you can always get back together with Jesus. The Dibley moment of the week this week is something which happened in one of the church communities where I used to work. Someone had been into the village church building and they'd been to a sermon, and the vicar had really, really upset them with something that the vicar had said. So the person got up and walked out of the church building and swore that they would never ever come back into that church building. Now, when I arrived there, it was not the vicar before me who'd done the upsetting, it was the vicar before that. So we're thinking maybe 10 or 15, maybe even 20 years previously that this person had made this decision that they were never ever going to cross the threshold of that village church building again. And as far as I'm aware, they never have. Perhaps that's quite unhelpful. So I leave it with you as an example of extreme grudge bearing. Well, that's it for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week where you can work all together as a community.